are you?
Oh, I'm living the dream. It is delightful to see you. And just my disclaimer to the world, I normally only get to see Vanessa on New Year's Eve. So this is very exciting.
True. It's actually lovely to see you, but also weird. We're not in sequin outfits.
Super weird how I don't look like a disco ball, and neither do you, and neither do the dancers.
For
actually,
the occasion and coordinated for this. Honestly, hold on.
Let's go change. That's amazing. It is great to see you. I'm going to read your intro, and then we're going to talk about mentorship and community and whatever else we get to.
Let's go.
All right, so, okay, Vanessa is, and I mean this with 100% certainty, the coolest girl I have ever met. Cool, kind, creative, glamorous, honestly, and somehow also just the nicest human alive. Aww. But here's what makes her cool. It's not aesthetic, it's not trend-based, it's not performative, it's embodied, it's integrated, it's the kind of cool that comes from actually knowing who you are and refusing to water yourself down for anyone. Vanessa has always been the girl who could exist in a lot of different rooms with a lot of different people at a lot of different stages of life and somehow fit. Not because she shapeshifts, but because she reinvents herself to belong. Not because she reinvents herself to belong, but because she genuinely gets people. She understands motivations before most of us can even name them ourselves. For a long time, she thought of her wide range of interests meant she needed to reinvent herself over and over again. New passions, new paths, new identities. But what eventually clicked is something I think so many of us need to hear. Her purpose wasn't to keep reinventing herself. It was to help other people grow into who they actually are. And that's exactly what she does. She helps creative business owners take the messy ideas, the half-finished websites, the meh, this isn't quite right spiral that many of us have found ourselves in, and turn them into brands that feel clear, confident, aligned, and ready to sell the heck out of their offers without losing themselves in the process. She believes in community over competition, and she has embodied that in her work since the moment I've had the honor of watching her build. She doesn't gatekeep, she doesn't posture, she connects dots, she lifts people up, she makes you feel seen and capable all at the same time. And in real life, she's a Taco Bell loving, disco ball obsessed, iced coffee and 20-degree Minnesota queen who will turn any stable surface into a dance floor. She is deeply talented, wildly stylish, a child at heart, and someone who once pivoted from practical psychology to fully claiming her creative design gifts, proving that maybe you shouldn't always listen to your grandpa. Today, we're talking about mentorship and community, two things that are not just buzzwords for Vanessa, but lived values. She understands that building something meaningful isn't about outperforming the room, it's about strengthening it. Vanessa, I'm so thrilled to talk about the things that matter the most to you. Welcome to Real Talk. I will add, you shouldn't be able to make friends with somebody you only see once a year, 3 years in a row. But we did, and I love that. So thank you for being here.
On facts, live truth, baby.
So hi, happy Tuesday. How's it going? How are things?
Oh my gosh, things are so good. I'm actually so excited to talk with you. Disclaimer, I've never done this before, so I'm who are we right now? This is great.
We're podcast girlies, or
let's go.
Something.
Or something like that.
I love a question, so we're gonna dive right in. So
yeah, let's go.
You've said you were always the girl with a lot of different friends in a lot of different places, and you always fit. When did you realize that wasn't random, it was a gift?
Yeah, actually, this was a recent discovery for me. I would say within the last couple of years, because I grew up that way. I mean, I grew up having, so many different friend groups. I mean, when you watch a movie and you see you have the jocks, you have the cheerleaders, you have, the artsy kids. I really just kind of fit into all of them. I had so many different types of interests, I could always find something to connect with someone about. And honestly, it was lonely. Because, you get the feeling of, I don't quite belong anywhere. How come everyone else does? So I always had that feeling in my body. And it wasn't until adulthood that I really realized, maybe I don't fit for a reason. And so it really planted the seed, especially in business moving forth. What is my purpose? Actually, the existential question of what is my purpose? And yeah, I think 2 to 3 years ago, I really started to connect those dots and really learn and deep dive into myself and think, maybe that's actually my magic. Maybe my magic and my purpose is to help other people realize you have magic in you too. Mm-hmm. And by staying true to yourself and being so for real with yourself, like you can grow into who you're meant to be too. And maybe that doesn't have to be any one particular thing, or maybe it does. And it's really the journey and the ride of it, right? That matters. And so, yeah.
That's fascinating. And I think like I don't maybe this will not resonate with you, but I have felt this in this era of like, oh, I've like aged into who I am.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
we're on this like constant journey of like, and I don't know, when did you start doing photography?
I started photography in 2021. It was kind of like right as COVID was going on, and
Yeah.
I was working corporate HR at the time. I had worked like a lot of other odd jobs prior to that.
Okay.
Again, lots of
Uh-huh.
interests, trying different things in my 20s, you know. And I just decided, you know what? I hate this job. I'm gonna blow this popsicle stand. And the opportunity presented itself, and I was like, you know what? I'm artsy, I'm creative, I like taking pictures, and maybe I'm just gonna try it. So I did, and I ended up loving it. And I loved most of all the people that I was meeting in the process. Like it was just so creatively fueling for me.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so I mean that was 5 years ago now, almost six.
That's
So
crazy. And like I think one of the things that's so unique about doing photography outside of like a studio brick and mortar like for yourself, I guess is how I would define that, is like you see your ability to like fit in and out of spaces, like
yes.
like you get to like play in that space, where I think sometimes like I don't know what else would have brought that to me without photography.
Yeah, I can't think either because again, I've worked so many different jobs where I didn't get that
Hmm.
feeling of, being able to like bend and morph and really go with the flow and adapt to your surroundings. I feel like that is such a slept on skill.
Yes.
Like literally my like almost maybe I should make this my tagline is like read the room. Read the room.
Yeah, because like where else
Please,
do you get
I'm
to like
begging
just do
you.
that again and again and again after weekend after weekend after weekend with like, oh,
Yes.
like I can dial this in. And
Yeah.
like I was just thinking about this recently and thinking about like photography brought me so much more than photography.
Yes.
And like what a unique way to be like, oh, you just get to try this again and again and again and again, and every room is different, but so there are through lines that like that's a real thing.
Yes. And it's wild because, you suit up, you gear up, you walk into a wedding day, you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know what you're
Never.
walking into that day. And I will die on the hill that photographers are so underappreciated and underrated, particularly wedding and event photographers,
Hmm.
because you are bearing the emotional burdens of people all day. It is a people business. And, one thing, it's like, you introduce yourself as a photographer and people say, oh, you're so creative. Well, yeah, but also it's a very analytically and emotionally
Yeah.
charged job.
Yeah. And I am so glad, like, if this is the only conversation we have today, that's actually just fine. Um, because I think there is, like, I remember when I started, so I started doing photography in a portrait studio when I was like a junior in high school. And then started doing things on the side, and then
Right.
launched full time in I think 2014. And when people would tell me like, "Oh, I love taking pictures, but I don't like weddings," I'm like, "Then don't ever do it. Like this is not for you." And like I think about, I don't know what your examples are, but like the bride that's late to her own wedding, the bride you have to convince to not kick the best man out of the wedding,
Mm-hmm.
managing photos with disparate or not speaking family members.
Yep.
Like there are like when you said bearing the emotional burdens, I was like, yes, that. Like we are managing and like in the most heightened day of a lot of people's lives.
Yes, correct. And I think people don't think about that. Like, this is such an important day for so many different people for different reasons. And so everyone is going to have a different emotional
Hmm.
response to that. And I think hyper awareness definitely plays a huge role in, seeing people
Hmm.
and also knowing how to respond.
Yeah.
And again, going back to read the room, I'm not going to walk into a bridal suite and somebody is, having a total utter meltdown for whatever reason and be like, okay,
Click, click.
let me just capture that. Like, hello, read the room, maybe put your camera away. Most of the time when I'm walking in for the day, I don't even have my camera on me
Hmm.
because I'm walking in and I'm assessing my surroundings, right?
Yep.
What are the vibes? How am I going to match the energy? Does energy need to be brought? Is that
Yep.
welcomed? Like, there are so many factors and variables involved. And I will die on the hill that you either have that or you don't.
Hmm. And I think you can tell, like, and I don't, this is not me like ratting out anyone in the industry, but like,
Right.
I would say, I think for me and for others, sometimes it feels like, well, what is my style or what am I contributing? Like, this is your day that I am here
Right.
for. And like, I think even like exactly what you just said, like, I walk in, I am quiet. We got to calibrate the levels. Like,
Hmm.
where are we? What is needed?
Right.
What is helpful? And who do you need to be for that wedding day? And I think that's the emotional work that I think is often not considered.
Yes, and I think it's there's some discernment involved,
Hmm.
right, in those decisions. Like, how are we showing up? And I think there's so much discourse around what type of photographer are you? Are
Hmm.
you documentary? Are you editorial? Are you timeless? Are you authentic? Are you capturing candid moments? Like, there's so many
Uh-huh.
buzzwords that I can just spew off that are everywhere. But at the end of the day, it's not about that.
Yeah.
How are you connecting with people? That is the most important part of that job. And I think that's an afterthought.
Okay. Yep. And we're just going to dive in right here to like, where does
Yeah.
mentorship show up in this space? Because I think I would even speak to, Patrick, who had a career pivot post pandemic, where I feel like because I had been in a portrait studio, because I had converted from film to digital, because I did it on my own, because I did it on my, like, I didn't
Right.
get the same, like, I did it pre Pinterest. And I think Pinterest has done some damage in this
I agree.
space of like,
Hmm.
who are you, the artist that we are? Like, I didn't get
Yes.
those questions. Where I feel like Patrick got a ton of those questions. Like, who are you and what is your style and what is your niche and what are you focusing on? And like, one of the things that I will say before we dive into the mentorship function here is like, in academia, we talk a lot about the dangers of over specializing. Like, you are a million miles deep and this wide, like, and that's what you do. And
Right.
like, that is alarming to me because that is not how I have ever experienced walking into these rooms. And so I think when we think about your career pivot and where and how you found mentorship and community in this space, tell us what that looked like.
Yeah. So, it's actually a crazy story. Well, probably not as crazy as it. When I say it out loud, it won't be that crazy. But when I first started my photography business, I had just moved to Minnesota.
Okay.
So I was brand new. I knew absolutely no one. I was on there Googling like workshops, help me,
Please,
photographer courses,
please help me.
like please styled shoot. Like I need, because for me, I can't just make an Instagram account, say I'm a photographer now, and be okay with that. It was very important for me to find community, and this translates to my career pivot too, right? Where I'm actively in the phase of searching for new community because I believe community is what takes you there. You can't get there on your own. You
Yep.
can't do it by yourself. You need community. So I signed up for all of these styled shoots and I met other vendors. And when we're talking about mentorship to me, I'll tell you what it doesn't mean to me. Mentorship does not mean to me, I'm going and I'm searching for a course and I'm spending $3,000 on it and that's my mentor now. That's not what mentorship is to me. That is purchasing a course and completing it. That's all that means to me.
Right.
Which I think is useful, and I'm actively doing that right now too. But when I am, back when I was searching for community and meeting different vendors, I found someone I really loved.
Yeah.
I really love this person. I look up to them. I look up to their values, the way that they approach wedding days. I shot weddings alongside of them. We actually have become best friends. And would I introduce her as my mentor? No. I'm going to introduce her as my best friend because that's just the vibe that we're on. But when you really break it down, was that my mentor? Yes, she was. And do I think that that is something that I would have paid for? No, because I don't think there's a monetary value when it comes to mentorship. I think that is, not a title that you give yourself. I think it's someone that you become when you are passionate about helping others. And so that's kind of, that's something that I was looking for, and I was lucky to have found it.
Yeah. I think you've hit the nail on the head of something that I think is so important, and that is like, is it a monetary thing? And like for me, I do a lot of work in the fundraising spaces. We talk about the difference between transactional fundraising, like, hi, this is who I am, this is what I want you to do, you're gonna write me a check. We're like, this is our relationship now.
Right.
Like mentorship, I think for me is not transactional. Like, and I think that is the struggle a lot of people are finding or identifying as they try to find mentors in their life now. And what you're finding is this $3,000 workshop on how to be mentored by somebody who doesn't know your name. And like, I think there is something so cheap about that. And at the same time, so expensive about that. Like it is the worst trade space for mentorship. Like, why am I paying so much and getting so little? And so I think I want to go back to the person that you found. How did you, is it someone you met through a styled shoot? How did you meet this person?
Yes, I actually met them online. So after doing a bunch of styled shoots, I actually became a part of a larger photography Facebook group online. And she was looking for a second shooter. It was my first year in business, and I was like, you know what? I can take almost all of your dates. So I spent an entire season with her, shooting alongside her. And I learned a lot during that process. And it wasn't always, this is how I want to do things. Sometimes it was, this is how I don't want to do things. I mean, there were so many different facets to it. But, when you spend an entire season with someone every single weekend, you learn a lot. And, I can think of a couple people who I connected with in that same way who I would consider mentors for me. So did I have just one? No, I had multiple in different stages of my business. And I think it's really important to, in my own personal experience, it was important for me to, always seek that out. Like your learning is never finished. I'm a strong believer that, whatever phase of business you're in, whether you're at the very bottom or the very top, you always need someone to look up to. So yeah, the online world is very powerful.
Yeah.
And so that's where I kind of made a lot of my connections.
Well, and I think that's so important, right? Like there's so much demonization of like, the digital world is killing us. Social media is the worst. Like, okay, yes. And at the same time, like we have to take responsibility for the spaces we are curating. I think sometimes there's this feeling of like, it just is like, no, we are actually capable of managing that. And so how are you putting yourself in positions to find these people to keep progressing? And I think that's one of the things that is interesting about creative fields where like there is this assumption of continued progress. And like, I don't know
Yeah.
that that was true in your HR role. I don't know that that's true in office roles that I have had. But like, if you're still shooting a wedding the way you shot it 3 years ago, like, and like,
Side eye, what are you
right,
doing?
like, and like that creates a culture of like, so how are you going to keep innovating? Like, how are you going to keep growing? Because that pressure is real.
It is, yeah, the pressure is so real. The pressure to be better, the pressure, especially when you're talking about price increases, which is such a
Hmm.
huge conversation in the creative world. Raise your prices, raise your prices. What value are you adding?
Hmm.
How are you better, especially in just even a social world of like, oh my gosh, they're doing the next big thing, the
Uh-huh.
next best thing. How are you going to be better? And you know what I say to that? Screw it. I say screw it all because, I think you can have, you can say, like, yeah, every single day I want to be 1% better because that's what people say. I think if you're making small improvements in your own life and in your business life, that's okay. And we don't need to constantly be measuring ourselves up against others.
Yeah.
Um, I find a lot of inspiration, of course, from other people online. I really do have to limit my consumption though, because the comparison game is such a trap and, it's a slippery slope. Um, I have a commitment to myself to do little things every day in my business that are going to make me a little bit better. That doesn't necessarily mean that this person's doing that thing, so I'm going to do it too. And I have to be content and okay with the way that I'm running my business,
Hmm.
but also trying new things. And I think that's really important when you're talking about improvement and growing and talking about, what new things are we trying today? What new people are we connecting with today? I
Yeah.
think is a big thing for me. Are we putting ourselves out there? Because I think that that's really important and that matters.
Well, and I think that's like, the comparison, and like this is where I will throw shade at social media, right? Like, your 1,500 to 5,000 photos do not capture your excellence behind the camera on a wedding day. Like no one knows what you were navigating personally, professionally, familially, industry wise. Like, uh, but it's so easy to be like, well, look at that picture, or look what we got, or look what we
Of
like.
course,
And it's like such a cheap, again, it's cheap. Like that's not what it felt like. That's not all we are.
you weren't there. You literally weren't there. You weren't there. How do you know? You know nothing. Anybody can go shoot a wedding, however they approach that, whatever the day was like, and come out of it with a banger photo they're going to
Hmm.
post on their Instagram feed. And everybody falls out of their chair and says, "You're the best." How do you know?
How do you know? How do you even know? How do you even know that every time someone came up and tapped you on the shoulder and asked to take their family photo, if you were like, I don't do that? If you like, there are so many traps that you cannot see in that photo.
No, you can't. And I've actually said like multiple times because so like I edit wedding galleries for other people too,
Hmm.
and which is way easier for me to do than to even edit my own photos. People are like, how do you do it so fast? And I'm like, well, because I'm not emotionally attached.
Right. I don't know that I took 17 of this photo and trying to assess which one of them I love the most.
No. And when you're like looking at a photo, and I really think that this is true, at least for me, like if I know like mom was having a meltdown over there and the divorced parents were like in an argument, but here's the photo that I
Yeah.
took and it looks gorgeous. I'm like emotionally locked into that moment.
Yep.
And I'm like, this is really, I can't get this right and I don't know why. Or maybe this is the best photo I took all day, but I hate it because I know what was really going on. Nobody else
Yes.
knows that.
Yes. Oh yeah, that for sure. Like I think for
Seriously.
me, it was also like I think sometimes when you get locked into this like competition community, what are you putting out there? You can come into this wedding and say, here's what I hope I'm getting. And
Oh yeah.
like I think for me it was literally learning like you're working with people, you are not creating a product. And like there might be 0 golden hour photos from this wedding. And like that might be the thing you were like, I have mastered this. This is gonna be my time to shine. And you're like, oh no, that's not
Yeah,
happening at all.
we all have hopes and dreams when we walk into a wedding day. Like, you'd be dumb to say that we don't have hopes and dreams. Like,
Correct.
of course, we all want to show up to a wedding and get all the things that we want. But if if it's not gonna happen, it's not gonna happen. And that is my bone to pick. And no shade, everybody runs their business how they want, but I'm not going to force my couples to do anything. Y'all don't want to go out for golden hour photos and it's the juiciest golden hour I've seen all year. That's on you. I'm not going to force you to do it. You don't
Yeah.
want to. Who am I to be like, let me tell you how you should experience your wedding day?
Yeah.
That doesn't sit right with me.
Yes. Like I just want to punctuate that as like, and I think that is where, I do want to keep talking about, like, for me, community over competition is important. I want to talk about what that
Mm-hmm.
actually looks like for you. But, like,
Mm-hmm.
you are, like, I think there is this need to, like, level set. Like, I'm a vendor. This is
Right.
not my day. And that's what styled shoots are for. Styled shoots are for making someone go outside for the
Yes.
juiciest golden hour
Uh-huh.
you've ever seen. So I want to talk about when you think about how you kind of run your business, how you manage like your brand. What does community over competition look like for you tangibly?
I'm very passionate about the topic of community over competition because these, again, I think are buzzwords that a lot of people use to describe themselves and describe the way that they function within the industry and within business that aren't actually living out those values. For me, community over competition truly means connecting with your people, treating them with respect, and also lifting each other up and supporting them. I can't tell you how many times that has not been the case, and then we're preaching community over competition.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how many times it has, been said community, community, but yet you're the first one to like undercut someone else or step on them to level up.
Mm-hmm.
And these are just like not things that I think fit into that like little box. So, I mean, genuinely showing up to a wedding day and talking with your vendors because you're a team. You're all
Mm-hmm.
there to do the same
Mm-hmm.
job, right? Um, Supporting them, asking them if there's anything that they need from you,
Mm-hmm.
just being supportive throughout the day, not causing problems where problems don't need to be created. I mean, I feel like these are all things in my brain that are just kind of that's just what you do. I have been proven wrong. Like on the
Unfortunately,
flip
yes.
side. Right, right. So I mean, when we're talking about community, that means togetherness. And I think that that gets lost in translation. And um, yeah, uh, d- show up,
Mm-hmm.
really. Show up. That's what that means to me. And that can
Yes.
be in many different ways,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whether that's online, in person, there's so many different ways to show up for your community.
And I think that's important to acknowledge. Like showing up is not one size fits all. Showing up is not like I think when you think about even online spaces, like there is some like, you know, showing up isn't ableist. Like I don't literally like I tell you like
Yeah,
you
right.
don't have to be proximal. You don't have to be doing what I'm doing where I'm doing it. But I do
Right.
think that like a friend sent me something this summer when I was yapping about I don't know. I just yap a lot. Was talking about like, we all want to be in community, but we don't know what it means to be a neighbor. And like
Right.
we've lost this concept of like and I think I'm gonna come right back to what you said at the beginning of like this $3,000 mentorship thing. Like, no, that is someone selling you something. And like at
Correct.
baseline,
Yes.
community is different than that. Community
Yes.
is
Very much
showing
so.
up and you know that looks different in every context, but I think we feel the difference.
I agree with you. I agree with you on that. I think there is such a stark difference, and that is felt. I just think about so many times when, I mean, how many times do you have a question about something? And who's the first person you think to ask? It's probably not somebody who you've ever paid for a course or something like that. Uh, that I think community aspect of it is like, are you the type of person who's going to respond and say, yeah, you're going to have to pay me $500 of my time for that information, which I've experienced, thinking that this was community, right?
Hmm.
You preach community over competition. It's no problem if I ask you, hey, where did you shoot this session? And it was like, well, I'm not telling you. You can pay me $500 for a mentorship for 1 hour. And I'm like, hold on a second. That's not how that works. I've never met you. I don't know you. How could I possibly choose you as a mentor? And how could I possibly pay you $500 because I asked you where you shot these photos? That's wild to me. It's crazy to me. Yeah, the
Yes.
self-proclaimed mentors. I'm like, just what?
Well, and I feel like you've put a title on that is so important. Like, if someone's like, "I'm your mentor now," like, I don't know you. Like
Wait,
that is
actually, that's
red
not how
flag.
mentorship works.
Red flags. Like, red flags abound. And I do think you've isolated something that is important. Like, I think about anytime I've tried to figure out something new on my camera, or how are you raising your prices, or how are you, did you recently participate in some kind of app that streamlines your wedding day? Like, how are you making those decisions, and who are you like so much of what we're doing in this innovative space is question asking, but like you got to find the right people to ask those questions of, and like that's what I think we're searching for in
Yes.
this community space, right?
Yeah, I think it's such a huge need for everyone. And I think that's where the buzzwords are coming from, right? Community over competition. People are searching for their community, which I think is a very normal experience as human beings, right? I mean, just going through life with a community makes life so much easier and makes life so much fun. Um, it really sucks when you run into the competitors who are preaching community.
Hmm.
Because if you're not a part of their community, then you're competition. And I think that's where we kind of start spiraling. And that's where things, get a little dicey because, you know, am I a part of your community? Or are you silently competing with me? I don't
Hmm.
know. I don't know that. It's a scary world out there.
Well, and I think that is like, I am somebody who has been big on mentorship my whole life, and have been incredibly blessed by the places I have been in, the seats I have occupied, the people who've invested in me, to the point that like I know what this is supposed to feel like. But when I think about talking to a younger generation, or people who just didn't grow up in the context that I grew up in, there are red flags. There are concerns. There are things that don't feel right. And I think about the fact that, like, okay, so we have to help people understand what they're looking for. We have to help people understand, hey, that might make that not feeling right is probably right, even if you're not sure why. And so I think like the new world requires more communities, because we're all doing different, like I genuinely, we have jobs that didn't exist outside of a Mad
Oh
Men
yeah.
style world, like where that was
Yeah.
marketing or that was branding. And so I think that's why this is so hard right now. I think we've allowed people the freedom to really like innovate and decide what they want to do and who they want to be, but there are not these like historic communities built in those
Right.
spaces yet.
Yeah, that's very true. I actually was just thinking about this a few days ago that we're literally all just making up our jobs, which I think is so amazing and so awesome. And it's like, yeah, I definitely like the bones of my job. Did I make it up? No, but like the way that I run my business every single day, I'm literally just making it up. Like I
Yep.
woke up one day and I said, I'm going to do this job. And then I did it, A lot of us are doing that every single day. And so it's really hard when it's like, wait, who blazed the trail before me? Where are you? I'm a baby and
Yes.
I need help.
Yes. And I do think like any stat you've read about like who, this generation and what I read was like high schoolers are doing a better job monetizing their side hustles than any generation before them. Like, well, yeah, because no one
Yes,
did it before. Like, that makes sense.
right.
And
That
at the
wasn't a
same
thing.
time, like, so if the world is going to continue innovating in this way, I am grateful for the people in these spaces who are ready to say, like, we need to talk about this because
Yes.
we have an obligation to be helpful to those who come behind us, where there were not necessarily people who came before us or helpful people who came before us.
Yeah, and you know what? Praise those people. Truly, because and who also don't say, and you can send me $500 for it.
Uh-huh.
Um, Clearly I'm very passionate about that. Maybe a
It's
little
real. We've all
traumatized. I
been
don't
there.
know. I wasn't expecting it. Why do you need 500 on my I don't have $500 to give you. I'm a
Correct.
baby. I can pay you in blocks. Like what? What do you mean? It's honestly crazy. But yeah, I do think like having the mindset of like, yeah, you're gonna do what I'm doing. That's great. Let me give you resources. Do you have
Yeah.
questions? I will answer them. Finding those people and really hanging on to them for dear life, I think is so important
Hmm.
because they're rare. And I've been lucky enough to find people like that. And truly, I think that like my community oriented mindset and me just like kind of being open and, willing to connect and really just truly connecting people invites those people in for me.
Yeah.
Um, and just like be loud and proud, babe. Like that is how you attract your community. That is how you attract your people is by being yourself, recognizing your own magic and using it to its full force. Why not?
Hmm.
That is the question because people ask why. I say, why not? I raise you one. Why not?
Yes to all of that. So my next question for you, and this is like a two-part question.
Okay.
How does someone position themselves as a like helper, mentor, community person? Like how do you think about what you're putting out there and what that says like to make sure someone knows like hey, I'm a safe space for that. How do you do that? That's the first question.
Share information. It's as simple as that because if people see that you're sharing information and you're not prompting them or asking them to pay you for it or, hey, sign up for this whatever the heck that's going to cost you money or message me for detail or whatever. If you're putting the barriers up, people are going to see that and feel that, right? If you're sharing the information and being willy-nilly and open and just vibing, like people are going to pick up on that energy. I try very, very hard because we all know the horrors of life at times to be a positive and open space for people and, to just share my life and whatever. It's not that serious. And I think people really pick up on that energy and think, wow, she seems just easygoing and she seems cool and fun. I have no problem sliding into her DMs. And people don't.
Yeah.
People are chatting in my DMs all day, every day. And I live for that. I live for it. I am really grateful and glad and also proud of myself for
Hmm.
being able to create a space where people feel like they can message me about anything, whether it's personal, professional, they have a question about whatever it may be. I remember actually, this was maybe like 6 or 8 weeks ago. I was kind of running through my editing process because people ask me a lot, how do you edit galleries so fast?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, it's not about the speed, it's about the process. And so I story series and I kind of just broke it down. This is what I do. I hope that's helpful for someone.
Yeah.
And I had somebody in particular message me and say, this was about $2,500 worth of a mentorship. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, partner. No, I give this information out for free. Like, if you have to pay $2,500 worth of a mentorship for that, I don't know what kind of community you're involved in, but that's not me. And that's not ever going to be the way that I approach it. And so we had a really great conversation about information sharing. And I've had people come to me too and say, wow, like you're just sharing this information for free. Yes, you could go on YouTube and find this information for free. Why would I charge you for it? I've had people book calls with me. Hey, I'm stuck. I'm stuck in my business. I don't know what I need, where I need
Yeah.
to go from here. Can I have some fresh eyes? I'll pay you. I'm like, oh no. Like an hour of my time to help you to know that I put good out into the world is invaluable to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think just like, you know, that energy, it rubs, it's definitely an energy thing, I think, for me.
Well, and I love that your immediate answer was as simple as sharing information because, like, information is currency, information is valuable. Like, are you gatekeeping?
Yes,
Are you building barriers? Or are you, like, genuinely just participating in this free form flow of information? And, like, the other thing that I would say is if you paid $2,500 for this, they're selling you the next thing. And, like, I think that is
yes,
my struggle, right?
absolutely.
Like, with the $3,000 mentorship or the 2,500 thing or the $500 an hour, like, you are only going to keep paying and the information is always going to be limited so that you have the obligation or feel the obligation to continue paying to play.
Yes, absolutely. It is a pay to play game. And there's also an initial barrier put up right off the bat. If you're paying $2,500, $3,000 for a mentorship to receive information, what makes you think that you can access that person without
Yep.
monetarily,
Mm-hmm.
paying for
Mm-hmm.
that? You're not. Where's the comfortability in that? Where's the trust? Trust isn't created through paying. That's
Yeah.
not how we create trust. So yeah, I've bought courses and I've bought whatever because, I need to learn skills and that's strictly what it's for. But do I think that I'm ever going to just like send that person a message and be like, "Hey, could I bother you for some more? Please can I have some more information?" How could I expect that? I
Well,
can't.
and I think about like even and like maybe this is kind of a marker for this kind of relationship. Like when you have either invested time or tangible resources into information or relationship or community, do you have someone's direct personal contact information or not? Like, is that someone you can shoot a text to or send a quick email at
Right.
12:30 at night when you're like 8 tears deep in redesigning your
Spiraling.
website and you don't know what words mean anymore? like,
Right.
like, are there people who you like? And like, I think that's kind of a good test, right? Like, do you feel like you have access to this person, or do you feel like you participated in a course that they offered? Like that would feel different.
It does. It feels very different. It's a completely different dynamic. And I think when, you raise the question, who is your mentor? Um, where are you searching for a mentorship? Like these are good questions to ask yourself. How do you feel when you interact with this person? Do you feel supported? Or do you feel like you've gotten the information in case closed? Um, There's a very stark difference there. Also, I just lost my train of thought because I'm a squirrel.
It happens.
But I
First of
did
all,
have a valid point coming, and it will come back to me.
it will come back, and you let me know when it does. But I think like what you were like, I found my squirrel, you lost yours, and I found mine. And like for me, it's like it's easy to find someone to be like, oh, beautiful photo. Like as someone you can actually hear critique from. Is this someone who actually takes the time to
Right.
critique you, knows you and what you're doing well enough to say, yes, but I'm not sure it lands exactly how you want it to. Or I'm not sure
Yes.
I'm getting the full picture. Like, who are the people you let in that space? Because I would also argue that space is not the space you paid $3,000 for because that's not the nature of your relationship.
No, it is not the nature of your relationship. The nature of that relationship is you paid for information, you're getting it. It doesn't matter whether that information is right or wrong. It doesn't matter how that information applies to your business because most of the time when you're paying for these things, you're paying for something that worked for someone else, right? This is not a customized experience. It is not a one size fits all experience. You are paying someone for something that worked for them. And, they'll die on that hill. That's okay. Doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. Why do you think you don't hear very many success stories that come out of this? Because you need that trust and to be able to go to someone and say, this is like the outcome I'm going for. Do you think this would work in my situation? Do you trust them to tell you no? Because I think that is worth something, right? Being able to go to someone and hearing them when they say, no, I don't think that's going to work for you, but let's brainstorm. Let's have a little brainstorm session. Let's figure out what could work for you. Also, is your mentor checking in on you? Because if somebody in your life who you are looking up to, who you trust, who you are experiencing this dynamic in relationship with is not checking in on you, that to me is a red flag. That is not a mentor. I mean, how many times do you, and I guess just to go back to the whole like monetary value of it
Yeah.
all, like
Yep.
you pay for college, right? Are you sitting like after your college course and you say, yeah, you know what? That was my mentor. No, that's your professor. Like, you paid for the same information that everybody else just got. That's not a customized experience for you.
And that doesn't mean that professor cannot be a mentor to you, but that experience was not
Correct.
a mentoring relationship. And like that is
Exactly. Yes.
so important. And like one of the things that I think about all the time, I have a 13-year-old daughter. And so sometimes we're like, okay, you got to bring more words in. Not everyone is a friend. Who is a neighbor, who is a teammate, who is a classmate, who is a teacher, who is a like and I think even that like we need to expand our vocabularies because somebody who knows more than you in a position you respect is not necessarily your mentor. Doesn't mean they cannot also be your
Correct.
mentor, but that does not innately make them your mentor. And that is
Right.
so important. So important.
Yes, that is so important. And I do think that the vocabulary needs to be expanded there. And also, like, we gotta chill on the buzzwords. Like, what is with what is with the
Yes.
buzzwords? Like, it drives me crazy because just because you have knowledge does not make you a self-proclaimed mentor. You can't just walk around saying, I'm a mentor. A mentor to who?
A mentor without
That is
mentees
not
is a
up to
a
you.
Delulu human. Like I don't what are you
No,
talking
that's
about?
not up to you. That is not up to you. Mentorship comes through time, trust, and a relationship that is double-sided. That is not a one-sided relationship, and I will die on that hill.
It is so important. The other thing that you said that I want to talk about is you talked about you're paying for something that worked for someone else or that worked for them.
Yeah.
And I think about the fact that like I have a mentor who is honestly like so very responsible for so much of who I am as a person. But his big thing was, you don't get to, as a mentor, look at someone and be like, well, if I were you, I would. Like, because you're not them. And so I think even what you're talking about is
Exactly.
like, that is a false starter that people have built businesses off of.
Yes, and they've built some real successful ones.
Hmm.
And to me, it's predatory. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I said what did I said? I think it's predatory. You're making a buck, and this is how you're doing it. Don't call yourself a mentor though,
Yeah.
because you're not. And exactly what you said. If I were you, I would. You're not them.
Hmm.
When you're putting yourself in that role, or someone has chosen you to be in that role, you have to put yourself in their shoes. You have to look at the situation through a different lens. Because, what worked for you probably 9 times out of 10 won't work for someone else.
Yeah.
And so that is like the unique ability to be able to see all sides of the situation, see all facets of it, to really be locked into and to care about that person's experience. It's selfless.
Yeah.
Mentorship is selfless. It should be.
I want to talk about that. So first I have to write it down before I forget. Mentorship is
We're keeping track of our
selfless.
squirrels here.
Like, I get that I'm recording this one. If I'm going to come back to it, I got to write it down. So when you think about, like, I think you've painted a really clear picture of, like, what does it look like to be available or accessible and, like, community oriented in this space. I think we also know there are some ways you do and do not approach people and ask for their time, their energy, their input, their effort, their resources. What advice would you give someone who's like, oh, I'm just gonna like message this person like, oh, give me your business model? Or like, what advice do you have for people when they do come into this space new, unsure of what they're asking for? How do you enter that space well?
Yeah, I think that is actually a very important question, because uh, when you're searching for community and you're searching for guidance, you can't just be a random person who's like, "Hey, give me everything." You're not entitled to that. How are you entitled to that? Again, I don't know you. Same for people that are like, "Hey, I want to be your mentor." It's like, "Well, I don't know you."
Uh-huh.
um, you know, Connecting is so important to me personally. So it's like if you admire my work, if you admire my process or admire what I share and you want to know more and you want to connect, let's connect. I'm so open to connection. Um, what I don't love is you're like messaging me and saying, "Hey, tell me this. What happened to hello? What happened to how are you?" You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, if you love my content, tell me. Interact with my stuff. If you're messaging me saying blah, 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 you don't even follow me. Who are you? You know what
Uh-huh.
I mean? Like,
Uh-huh.
um, to me, so many of those relationships are really built on genuinely connecting as people first. That is so, so important to me. And I know, other people may have different takes on that, but I want to connect about something that's not business first. Because it breaks the ice, right? It creates trust.
Hmm.
And I think it is so important that when you are seeking information, one, you're trustworthy, but you find me trustworthy.
Yep.
It goes both ways. And, if we're just demanding information, like, whoa, that's crazy. Let's connect. And I'm so open to that. Let's get on a call. Let's go for coffee. Let's, do whatever it is we're doing, in order to make that happen before we're just.
Okay, so here's where my brain is right now, which is like, okay,
Yes.
I actually think what we're talking about are like rules of engagement for a new world.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there used to be I don't know, someone post, Emily Post. I think Emily Post had like a whole column in some newspaper. Anyone older than me listening to this is like going to die about how inaccurate this information is, and that's fine. I can tolerate it. I'm comfortable with who I am. I'm pretty sure it was Emily Post. It was like, here are, the rules of what you do when someone invites you to their house for a meal, and how quickly you need to send a thank you note, and how, like, there were
Yes.
rules. And I think so much of etiquette has gone out the door appropriately. Like,
Yes.
actually, there don't have to be 85 forks when you sit down for dinner. And, like, maybe you can, like, I grew up in a pretty formal home, but, like, we passed to the left when we ate dinner, even though most people passed to the right. And, like, this was a topic of conversation. I think what we're talking about are rules of engagement for a new world. Like, you can't, like, you shouldn't, like, I think even the things you're saying, they make so much sense to me. But, like, if I had a grandparent listen to anything, like, I don't understand any of the words you're saying.
Right.
And so
Yes.
I think about, like, you should follow me before I get a message from you. You should have interacted with anything I've, like, this is,
Yeah.
we're going to have a conversation take two, I think, that is probably just about literally the how-to guide in navigating this world,
Yeah.
because no one has done it.
No, nobody has done it before. And we're in such a new age with technology and social media. And I think that, yeah, while you can say, oh, social media is damaging and the world is doomed, just like you said before, well, we're in charge
Yeah.
of that, right? And if that means that we need to establish etiquette and rules for how we're navigating that, that's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all, because we as human beings, like, I could get into the biology and the psychology of it all. I'll spare you. We cannot tolerate in our little brains people constantly having immediate access to
Mhm.
us. That's not normal. It is not normal to be constantly accessed. So I think boundaries are okay there, and having etiquette, right? Like, it's just so crazy, and especially as you know, Mr. Hamster Dance, like, he gets a lot of people accessing him daily, and
Uh-huh.
we as humans, that's too much. That's too much. You get to a point of, like, respect, right?
Well, and I think, like, because there weren't rules, and maybe I think I probably can blame our general collective generation for, like, you could just send
Yeah.
someone an AOL Instant Messenger at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
Like that
No
was a
biggie.
world we navigated in, and we enjoyed the fact that it didn't close at 6 p.m. or it, but
Right.
what that means in a world where we build brands and businesses in this space is like, no, actually, we do need to bring back some rules, or invent them,
Yeah.
or create them, or share them, or abide by them.
Yes. Bring back boundaries.
Bring
Please.
it back. bring it back.
Yeah,
Bring
let's
it
bring it
back.
back. Blast from the past. We have boundaries now.
We have evolved. And I think that is an important conversation. I am aware of the time and have like two more questions if you have the time.
Oh yeah, no, you're good. We're good.
Okay. I'm gonna close these two questions, and then we're gonna think about how we're gonna build structure in a place where there has been none. Um, how do you, when I think about like your brand, your presence, what advice do you have for somebody who's trying to figure out how to be themselves in an online space?
Yeah, it's called having the audacity.
Yes.
It is called having the audacity because I think deep down everybody knows who they are. I don't think that's the barrier. I think the barrier is being comfortable and confident and having the audacity to be perceived by others. Um, and once you get over that, you're good. It's like, what would be like an accurate comparison? You know what? Do you ever struggle with, like, getting in the shower? Like, I
Yeah.
know I do.
All
Like,
the
I
time,
hate
Vanessa.
getting in the shower. I'm like, I don't want to take a shower. But then, like, once you get in, you're like, I love being in the shower. Like, I love. why didn't I get in early, like sooner? Like, what have I been doing with my life? I think it's a little bit like that,
Yeah.
right? Like, once you get over that initial hump, that like really scary part, you're like, actually, this is kind of nice and I feel free.
Hmm.
Um, my biggest advice would just be to have the audacity. You know who you are. If you need to go do a little soul searching to really nail it down and really hammer it home to yourself, do that. Take your time. Um, but show up. You will feel so free. And also that does come with finding people around you who make you feel comfortable enough to
Yep.
do it and who support you and cheer you on during that process because it can be really hard.
Well, and I think this was so much of my conversation with Jeff, right? Was like, how do you find your people? Like, well, if you're putting out
Yeah.
things that feel inauthentic to you, you are never
Yes.
going to find your people. Or if you do, it is a fluke at best. So I think that is like, it is like, but it's not really like, I think about like any middle school dance or event where you're like, this is so awkward. Like, some of you are in the middle
Yeah.
school social media. Like, you just
Yes.
feel awkward.
Yes.
I don't know who I am. Like, uh,
Yeah.
but you have to try, and like trial and error are real ways that we
Yeah.
grow and learn. Like, that is not different in a virtual space.
No, it's not. And, I'm preaching to the choir here, I guess, but like, showing up and being yourself it will attract your community. And if you are inauthentic to yourself, you will attract a community that is not meant for you. And then you will wonder, why do I feel so
Mhm.
lonely? Why do I feel like I don't fit in this space? Well, it's because you're not where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I am a firm believer, like, I won't get too like witchy woohoo on you, but if you are going down the wrong path, in business, in life, if something is not aligned, the universe will tell you. You will get signs telling you like you're not where you're supposed to be, girl. Like what like up in here and in here
Yep.
that you're going the wrong way. And that's just gonna get worse the longer you do it for. I am a living proof.
I think one of my favorite parts about who you are as a person is like, you sound so sweet while you're telling like the most true thing. And all I can picture is
No,
like the little guy
literally.
from like Mario Kart with like the cloud that's like, turn around. like, like,
Yeah.
like, sweetie, I love you. You're doing so good, but you need to go the other way. And like, that's just the immediate mental
Yeah.
picture of what you were saying. And I was like, I was in Mario Kart and you needed to know that immediately.
Yeah, literally the cloud, like danger. I'm just like smiling,
Like,
holding a sign, danger,
turn
danger,
around.
turn
You can
around.
do it.
You can do it, girl. This is bad.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. That is phenomenal. Thank you. Do not be surprised when that graphic shows up in this video. It's important that everybody see what I was seeing. Cause like so sunshiny, but like also wrong. And like I appreciate the
Right.
ability
Yes.
to share both of those things. They are important. Okay.
Yes. If there's anything about me, it's like I have no problem telling you like it is, but I'll do it with a smile on my face.
No, don't do that.
Absolutely not.
Okay. All right. Last question. Um, who who are you becoming in this journey? What are you doing? What's the plan? That's like the largest, most open-ended question I could ask at the close of our time together.
Yeah, you know what? My existential crisis has just appeared. No.
Yeah, I'm here to help.
I actually love this question because I love my elusive answer to it. I don't have a plan.
Yep, great.
So much of my life, like, when people ask you when you're in high school, like, okay, what's going to be your 5-year plan? You're like,
Yep.
in college, okay, let's make our 5-year plans. I've always been the girl that's like, fuck a 5-year plan. Like, what do I need a 5-year plan for? Because life ebbs and flows, things change, you don't really know what's going to happen, and we're just like riding the waves.
Yep.
Like, I can be so type A in certain parts of my life and so type B at the same time. Like, I really have mastered the art of just like going with the flow, and letting life happen because that's the only way I can enjoy it. So, as a business owner, of course, I have goals for business. Like, I want to reach this quota. I want to book this certain amount of clients this quarter. Like, of course, like I have goals in that regard, but really, like, I think my biggest goal in life is to enjoy it, to do things that make me happy, to have people in my life that support me and care about me and who lift me up. And also to be able to have the capacity to do that for other people too,
Yep.
to make them feel empowered and seen, to make them feel like, no, if I can do it, given my background, which is I would need multiple hours for that. So can you. You can do it. That's always been an important part of how I approach business, is making other people feel seen, making other people feel like, no, you can have the audacity to show up as yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You can attract community. You can live a life that is fulfilling to you as long as you are true to yourself, and live your truth, right? Like, you're allowed to do that. And at any moment in life, you're allowed to change it.
Yes.
And if something is not feeling right or going right, or you have a new idea or whatever, all right, like, just go with it. And everything will work out because life goes on.
That's like I couldn't have told you what I hoped your answer was, but like I think that's exactly what I hoped your answer was without hoping what your answer was. Because I just think it's important. Like I think
Is that the
so
vibe I give off?
like well because like just I think the vibe is like who do you want to be? Like
Yeah,
setting arbitrary goals for growth or development, if they run in opposition to the life we want to live or who we are endeavoring to be, they cease to be good or meaningful goals, I think.
exactly. And I think it's very important to make that distinction. Are your goals in opposition with who you are
Yeah.
and who you want to be? And I think that's the conversation that needs to be had. I think those are the questions that need to be asked, not what is your 5-year plan?
Hmm.
Who do you want to be? What kind of person do you want to be? What kind of friend do you want to be? Do you want to be an entrepreneur? Do you want to do continued education and become whomever? I think those are questions that people could benefit from, and really getting those gears turning, because that is not considered, especially in university spaces and higher education. Your emotional experience is not considered. It's all pen to paper. What degree are you gonna get? What job are you gonna work? And it's
Uh-huh.
like, wait, but like myself as a human being is not being considered. And I think I really felt the weight of that in college. And also speaking with family members about what's your plan. It's like, well, all right, well, let's just forget that I'm a person. It
Yep.
can feel isolating and a lot of pressure.
Well, and I think like this is such a perfect place to close because I think what that those conversations happen with mentors.
Yes.
Like those conversations
Yes.
happen in spaces where you are known, where you are seen, where you feel like
Yes.
safe to express like so I booked this wedding and it was all the things that I thought it was going to be. And then I was like, maybe I'm not who's in that space with you and
Right.
who is that person? And like that person is a mentor. And so I think that
Yes.
is thank you for wrapping us up so perfectly.
Yeah. Reading the room. No.
It's like a theme. It's like crazy. Thank you so much for your time. I do think this is
Yeah,
probably the first of many of
absolutely.
these conversations. I look forward to being back in this space with you so we
Yes.
can solve all the world's problems and help everybody navigate life. Thank you
Yes.
for who you are. Thank you for what you do.
Aw.
I'm so grateful for you.
Yeah, I'm grateful for you too. I appreciate you having me on. But when you like messaged me, I was like, what?
Yes.
Crazy. But as you know, I love to yap and I love to share my maybe seemingly hot takes, but
I love them all.
I look forward to more conversations too. I feel like we could solve all the world's problems.
Yeah. I have no doubt, actually. So thank you for your time. I hope you have an amazing
Absolutely.
Tuesday. And I hope I see you before December 31st, 2026.
I hope so.
All right. Bye, friend.
Bye.